UFC 300 is in the books, and oh my God, that was arguably one of the best cards of all time. That was an amazing event, one of one type of UFC event. It had everything you would want from a perfect card, top to bottom. We knew the talent was stacked, and for the most part, pretty much 99.9% of this card fully delivered, was beautifully entertaining, and was top notch. Like, I'm literally like still in shock of some of the stuff that happened on this card, but just overall from an amazing event, just a world-class event we saw get put on. It's gonna be near impossible to top this card. And initially this was a card people were criticizing so heavily, and now we're at the point where it's like, okay, this might be one of the best cards of all time, if not the best card of all time. Like, if not the best card of all time. Like, it's that level. And we come out of this event with so many things to talk about, so many takeaways, because there were so many important fights and also so many entertaining fights and high-level fights as well. UFC 300 delivered on all fronts, and I'm literally just like, yo, this was amazing. From fight fans, MMA fans, just UFC fans, any type of combat sports fan, you look at this event and it just goes to show, when they're at the top of their game, nobody's like the UFC. Nobody's like the UFC. When they're at the top of their game and they say we need to deliver for the fans 100% top to bottom, they can. And when they do, oh my God, the standard is set. Like, the standard is going to be so high now for, let's say, UFC 400. Anytime they're going to try to stack a card, it's like, this might be the gold standard. UFC 300 was near perfect on all fronts. And I can't wait to get into it, to dive in. There's so much to get into. So let's go. Pereira versus Hill, massive matchup. Hill obviously coming off the Achilles injury. He had the belt, never lost it. And then Pereira trying to get his first title defense, right? He won the middleweight title, won the light heavyweight title, and now he's trying to actually defend one of the belts that he has got and kind of solidify himself as a legit champion, a reigning champion, and kind of have a run, a long title run in the UFC to kind of create and build that legacy more. But it's just crazy to see Alex and the aura that he brings and what he has now so quickly. Like, he is that guy. Alex Pereira is one of the biggest superstars in the UFC, and I say it over and over again, and time and time again I say this, but Pereira just never disappoints. Like, even in his loss, right? It's like he still doesn't disappoint from an entertainment value standpoint. Like, he is must-see TV every time now, and he hasn't really had a boring fight. Like, he just hasn't had a boring fight in the UFC, and it's incredible. And the streak kept going with this fight. So coming in, of course, he does the usual walkout, the walk, and then you have Hill waiting for him, kind of calling him in, like, come on, let's go, enough of this, let's get it on, right? Hill was hyped going into this fight. And there was kind of this weird, like, okay, I respect you kind of thing. I'm a fan of you in a sense, but I also want what's mine back, and I'm trying to come at you, right? So I think Pereira saw that as like, okay, you're being nice in one sense, and then now you're disrespecting me, right? So it's like, what do I do with that? Anyways, we come into this fight, and early on, Pereira, obviously the leg kicks. This is what everyone talked about. Is Pereira going to be able to land those leg kicks on Jamahal Hill? A lot of us thought he would, and he did. Now, later on in that, in the sequence, because he threw a lot. Like, Alex Pereira threw a ton of leg kicks early on, like a lot. And the first couple landed, and he kept landing. And then eventually Hill was able to kind of, at least a couple, dodge. But he also threw some of his own as well. Jamahal Hill was throwing some of his own back. Like, it was kind of back and forth with the leg kicks. But then as the round progressed, pretty quickly, you kind of saw the technical level of Pereira, show itself. And, hitting Hill in the body, going at Hill's body, going up and down, feints. Like, it was starting to get at Hill a little bit. Like, the technical level, you can kind of see the difference between Pereira and Hill. And what's crazy is that it starts with Jamahal Hill getting Pereira with a nut shot. And it's like, okay, it didn't look too bad. But of course, Herb Dean, maybe they'll stop it for like a couple seconds. Let me check. Okay, I'm good. Okay, now let's go. No. As soon as he was coming to Pereira and saying time, like, Pereira's like, no. I see something here. Get out the way. And Herb did a great job of being like, all right, fight. And it continued, and the momentum didn't really stop, right? They kind of dapped up, and then like 2 seconds, they were back into the fight. And immediately, Pereira just clocks him with the classic left hook, and it's over. Like, it was over. Jamahal Hill, eyes rolled back. He was just a couple shots away. And of course, Alex Pereira even looked at him and was like, this could be over, but no one's stopping it. So I'm going to give you a couple more to finish it. And that's exactly what he does. He pushed Hill out. Hill didn't even know what was going on. Hill was like, where am I? What happened? Are you sure? And Pereira memes on him. I did not expect this. Like, Pereira is really starting to come out of his shell. The fact that he memed Jamahal Hill, I know he was upset about the disrespect, earlier going into the fight week. But even so, you still wouldn't expect Pereira himself to kind of do a meme or kind of that kind of mocking of his opponent that he just knocked out. And he did it. And it was crazy. Like, I don't know if he knew the meme that he was doing. I don't know if that's a reference to anything, but it just seemed like he's like, I told you. Hill was never in this fight. Pereira saw something in that first minute or so that showed him, oh, Jamahal Hill's not on my level. And that's why when Herb Dean came on, he's like, bro, don't even worry about the nut shot. I didn't feel anything. This is going to be over, like, right now. And it literally was. Like, quite literally. It was one of the most, it was crazy. Like, it was such a badass moment from going from the nut shot and then him being like, nah. Let me, like, he literally said, hold up, let me cook. And then 2 seconds later, right, they reset, they're proper now, the fight's back on, boom, fight over, and then memes on you and goes, and now Pereira, in the span of like 2.5 years, has 2 belts, now has a title defense in the higher weight class in light heavyweight, and there's not really a high-profile opponent left for him. You have Magomed Ankalaev, but after that, it's like, what else is there? And that's why he was talking about heavyweight, because he knows if he wants a big money fight and Adesanya fight's not happening, he can do Ankalaev, but he's not really, his stock isn't that high right now. The Yuri rematch is a fun fight and is intriguing, but his one win against Rakic, and we'll get into that, is that enough, right? Is Yuri's one win enough to get back to Pereira? And it could be just because of how shallow the division is. And then Pereira does the 301 call out, trying to get to the next pay-per-view literally like a month away, not even. That's madness. And then you take in the fact that he actually broke his pinky toe before coming into this fight alone, then does it, then gets the finish, and now still wants to go to 301, doesn't even care about that pinky toe. Like, that just shows the kind of guy that he is and why fans love him so much. Like, he puts on a show every time. He's an amazing personality, and he stays active. It's exactly what you want from your superstar, right? This is what you want from your superstar. And not even up-and-coming guys act like this, right? And Pereira's doing it, and he's been doing this. In regards to the 301, even Dana was like, look, just heal up, get the toe fixed. And also, he didn't seem too intrigued with the Aspinall fight or heavyweight in general with Pereira. He's like, just do your thing in light heavyweight, right? And I think they know, and I think a lot of people say this too, like, let's get some more title defenses. Let's get a good reign going. But that being said, there isn't kind of an opportunity, right? The division's kind of shallow. There's not really a surefire number one contender at light heavyweight. And we definitely need a better, card for 301 card is pretty shallow right now. We could use a big boost. But that being said, it's kind of a risk. I don't think the UFC sees it as worth it. They're like, let's just chill, get 100%, and let's get back to your division. And then Tom Aspinall, they got that Blades fight, unless they don't think that's going to be a good enough fight for like Manchester or something. But I think it is. Then they can maybe make it happen. But very interesting. Something is definitely brewing here for sure between Aspinall and Pereira. It's been going on for a little bit. Aspinall said, he was in an event with Pereira, and Pereira was kind of eyeing him, and then those talks started to, loom. It's just rumors. And then Aspinall posts that photo, kind of like, cryptic on Instagram, like, I'm watching you, like, just in case you come up, I'll be ready. Like, that is a super interesting matchup, but let's just wait. Let's let it, let's get into it, let's build to that. I don't know if we need to do that right now, but credit to Pereira for even talking about it. And it's super interesting to me, like, how fast Pereira has not just become a superstar, not just how fast he's become a champion, 2-division champion, now with a title defense in less than 3 years. And you look at Adesanya watching at 300, and a lot of people are talking about this. It does make you think about that moment that Adesanya said, like, Pereira is that guy who's always going to be at the bar watching, being like, I beat that guy one time. And now people are kind of reversing that on Izzy, being like, you're the guy saying I beat him one time. And then Pereira is the one headlining the 300 event that you wanted to headline. Granted, obviously it's not his fault. Duplessis wasn't ready. And then on top of that, he gets the second belt that you couldn't get and defended it at this event, right? It's kind of like he's doing things that Izzy hasn't done yet and wanted to do. And it's just super interesting how the tables have really turned. Like, at least in my eyes, like how it was being said to me was, Izzy's the good guy, and then the bad guy's coming back to get Izzy, and Izzy's going to finally get his revenge. But then Pereira beat him, and then Izzy finally did get his revenge, but then Pereira goes up and does the thing that Izzy always wanted to do. It's just super fascinating to see how this story played out and how it's always being talked about. Doesn't matter, like Izzy's just there watching the event, now it's being talked about there, and it does make you think, right? And then I think about Hill as well. Again, I'm just going back to Hill now, and he said, like, look, I'm going to try to knock, and credit to Hill, look, he said he's going to try to knock out Pereira, and he was striking, he was standing up with him, and he is a knockout artist, so you can't blame him for that. But again, it's someone else who goes out Pereira, says, no, I'm going to be the one to stand up with this guy and knock him out. You have to remember, Izzy knocked him out, but that was in a spectacular fashion. He's one of the most intelligent elite strikers we have in the UFC. And he did it off a counter when he was badly hurt himself in the leg department. And now, again, another person coming at Pereira, trying to stand up with him, and they get finished. So is this going to be a lesson for future guys against Pereira, or are people still going to try to stand up and have a chess match with Pereira? Maybe if you're having a striking match with Pereira, make it messy or something like that. But he is too technical. You can't just be there having just like a technical kickboxing match with him, because then you're just catering to his realm. Let me go to the co-main event, Weili versus Xiaonan. And this was super interesting because we know like this could have easily been a first round submission win for Weili. She had her in the rear naked choke. It was sunken in. It was ready to go. And it looked like Xiaonan was out. Like Xiaonan clearly looked out for a second. But because of the time, she got saved by the bell. And she literally even got up and was like crying as if she like lost. Like, oh my God, I can't believe like what just happened. Like, and they're like, no, you're still in this fight. You got to get to your corner. And she's like, what? Like that is madness. To have that moment and then go right back into the second round is just bonkers, right? And then you start to think, it's like, man, that must suck for Weili. Like, what if she now loses this fight? It's like, that's controversial in the sense it's like you finished her, but then didn't finish her. It's like a super weird moment. Then you go into round two, Weili dominates again, possibly a 10-8, and then she catches her in that arm triangle, and you think, okay, it's over again. And just the toughness of Xiaonan to get out, and I'm just thinking this whole time, like, oh my God, Weili's arms must be gassed. And that's exactly what happened, because in round three, Xiaonan was getting the better of her. Weili was getting sloppy, didn't really have her balance, was throwing some wild shots and being put in vulnerable positions. And now I'm thinking like, okay, it's 2-1, but in these next two rounds, is Xiaonan going to be able to come back and beat Weili? And how controversial that could be based on that first round. But then we go to the next two rounds, and Weili, intelligent, veteran, takes care of business on the ground, controls, lands some damage, and secures the win in a dominant victory, but a little bit of a scary moment for the champ after almost getting a submission. It is crazy. Like you think you have it, you're like, what? They didn't tap, and then you go again, they don't tap out, and you're like, oh my God. And then you go to the third round and you lose that. It's like all the momentum was going in Xiaonan's favor, but then Weili was able to stay composed and win the next two rounds. Super impressive. It wasn't obviously the fireworks fight that Weili, sometimes has, of course, that we know. But it was a super high level performance and a dominant one for Weili. And it just continues to show her reign and just how much improvement that she's making. And right now, the most interesting fight to me now is Tatiana Suarez. If she can get up there, that's a super intriguing fight. And I think it could be a difficult one for Weili. But aside from that, man, strawweight belongs to Weili, man. She's tough as hell. All right, now we go to obviously the biggest fight of the night and the biggest story of the night, the BMF fight. I literally couldn't have been more wrong about what happened in the end of this fight. I acknowledge I was dead wrong. But starting in that first round, Max's speed and timing and boxing was clearly ahead of Gaethje and was giving him problems right away. And then Gaethje was landing those leg kicks on Max Holloway. But of course, as we see later on in this fight, it didn't bother Max at all. I wasn't wrong about Gaethje kicking Max's legs and Max not really defending it, but I was dead wrong about Max dealing with that. Like, he did not care. He did not give a fuck. Like, he ate those and basically just said, I don't care, I'm coming at you either way, and I'm piecing you up. And then we go to the final seconds of the first round where Max Holloway does that spinning kick and clunks Gaethje's nose. It looks like it broke it, and that was a huge change for the fight. That changed so much because with Gaethje's nose messed up, he's not gonna be able to breathe properly, and that's a problem. And then we go into the second round, and this to me was the only negative thing I have to say about this fight. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this has to be a point being made. Max Holloway gets the first eye poke and says, okay. Gaethje's like, okay, I'm cool, let's go. And then he gets another eye poke, and both of them were pretty bad eye pokes. And on the second one, he did it again in the same round, and then he's given a serious warning, but the damage is already done. Gaethje was clearly affected by those eye pokes. He was obviously playing cool and didn't want the fight to get ruined, and kudos to him. But in my eyes, like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer and be like, like that's like, it was an amazing fight and an amazing finish. But that second round, those two eye pokes, you can't say that didn't affect Gaethje. And who knows how that fight, how he does later on in that fight, etc. You can't say it didn't affect Gaethje. And there should be a point taken away. Like, in my opinion, you warn the fighters before the fight, hey, watch out for the hands, eye pokes. We all know this, especially a veteran like Max. You do that, and it isn't a solid eye poke. It went deep in there. It was impactful. You got to take a point away, especially on the second time in the same round. It looked like Max's night from the get-go, but I'm just saying we need to do something about these eye pokes, because if you just keep letting it slide, fighters aren't going to be mentally as cautious of it because they're like, okay, I can get away with one or two. Like, we can't let that slide. Now, that's the only negative thing I'm going to say about this fight, but I just had to mention it because it did stand out to me. Then we move on to the third round, and it's the diversity of Max, like hitting the body, hitting the legs, hitting the face. Like, he is mixing it up so much in the striking. And Gaethje, and the volume on top of that, Gaethje was being frozen up. Like, he was frozen when Max was coming in with some multiple combos, boom, 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 and then he escapes beautifully before Gaethje can counter him. It was honestly brilliant from Max, the way he was moving, the way he was picking his shots, the variety of which he was using his shots to the body, to the leg, and to the head. Like, it was a phenomenal performance. In that third round, he was just doing that. And Gaethje, aside from the leg kicks, couldn't really do much else. He's not really landing anything impactful on Max. And those leg kicks, although are great, Max has shown no signs of it affecting him, which I find crazy. Then we go to the fourth round, a little bit more back and forth. Gaethje did, quote unquote, drop Max seemingly, but I thought it was more of a slip. But either way, Gaethje did land some good shots, in this round. And then we go to the fifth round. Max cruising, picking Gaethje apart, like doing everything I thought that wouldn't be enough to really hurt Gaethje. He is just piecing him up, hurting him, landing lots of shots, volume, boom, 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 boom. Then, staying away. Like, he was pitch perfect in this fight. He was spot on from the get-go. And this fifth round was capsulating that until the end, where I'm like, there's no way he's about to do this. He said, you know what? This is a BMF fight. This is a BMF title fight against Justin Gaethje, and I'm going to do the one thing that I've been avoiding this whole fight because I'm so confident, because I've been so dominant in this fight. This guy can't hit me. This guy can't hurt me. You gave the one thing that Gaethje was trying to get this whole fight. You got it for 10 seconds. You put it on a plate. You gave it to Gaethje on a silver platter, and you still took advantage of it, and you won from that exchange that everyone thought Gaethje would have the better of. With 10 seconds left, Max Holloway decides, no. We're ending this the right way, the BMF way. In the center of the octagon, going bang for bang, blow for blow, let's go. And then you knock him out cold with 1 second left, basically a buzzer beater. That was arguably the most badass moment we've ever seen in the UFC. That was arguably one of the greatest knockouts of all time. And you gave that to us with 1 second left? Are you kidding me? I was literally shocked. I was stunned. I'm like, there's no way this just happened. If you're Max, you have every reason not to do this. You are arguably winning 4-0 right now, going into the fifth, and you say, forget that. I'm giving the fans what they came here to see. Two bad motherfuckers going at it, trying to kill each other, and you sleep him? This was the peak. This was perfect for UFC 300. This was perfect for the BMF belt. This is why they made this fight. This is exactly why they made this fight. And Max just put himself on another stratosphere, somewhere I didn't even think he could get to it, because he's already gone so high in the UFC. He's now taking himself even higher. On the other hand, for Gaethje, I feel bad because you didn't even have to take this fight, really. You were set for a title shot. You take this fight to please the fans, to obviously make a big moment, and you fall flat on your face, and now you lose the title shot to the guy that you beat last. But nonetheless, you gave us a hell of a show. You made this moment happen. And you can see after the fight, Dana talking to him like they and everyone else, all of us, appreciate what he did to make this happen. But at the end of the day, it's like, could he have got the title shot? And now Dustin Poirier's got it. But for Max, it couldn't have gone any better. And now it seems like you're about to steal that title shot from Volkanovski, because the Poirier after the fight's like, yeah, this guy's next, right? When you have a moment like that on a stage like that, how can you not give him the title shot now? And if not, you got options at lightweight now. So Max literally is on top of the world where he stands. And again, I couldn't have been more wrong about this fight. Gaethje, yes, landed those leg kicks that I talked about, but that was it. And Max didn't give a fuck about them, right? The rest of the time, Max basically had a masterclass dominant performance over Gaethje. And although I was saying, don't underestimate Holloway. He's technical, like he's fast. He has that volume. I didn't think it was going to be like that though. And he proved me wrong, and I honestly couldn't be any happier. Next, we go to the fight that I'm really sad about, which is Charles Oliveira versus Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan did what I thought he could possibly do, which was, just control Oliveira on the top, land some good shots. Like he landed some really good elbows in that fight. And for the most part, had the better of Charles, and Charles really kept himself in that fight with those submission attempts. That guillotine, I thought it could be over. I'm like, this is so damn close, but I'm also like, there's no way he taps to this. There's just no way. He's either going to sleep or he's not tapping. He's either getting out or going to sleep. Like, there's none of that. And he defended that guillotine beautifully. It honestly gave me, a flashbacks of Ortega versus Volkanovski. And then you go into the third round where he gets another submission attempt, which looks like it's locked in, ready to go, but he just didn't have the angle or the squeeze to, finish it. But aside from those submission attempts, most of that fight went to Arman Tsarukyan. And I know it was a split decision because it just depends how much you value those submission attempts. And I do think they had real value, especially that guillotine. But round by round, it made sense that Tsarukyan won. The right man won. It does suck, for Charles Oliveira fans and his moment, but we can still get a lot of fun fights from Charles Oliveira, but I don't think that title run, is going to happen again. I don't think he's going to be able to come back now just because of the way the division is and just everything that he's done already, but we can still get some super fun fights from Oliveira. So that's that. Things worked out great for Tsarukyan. Obviously, a finish would have been a bigger moment, etc. But at the end of the day, he got the job done. He got his win against Oliveira, and now he'll probably get the title shot in the fall. Next up, the Bo Nickal fight. And honestly, I don't know why he was such a huge favorite. I'm like, I don't care how good you think Bo Nickal is. How can you put someone in MMA, in an MMA fight? How can you put anyone at a minus 1,400 whatever favorite? Like, that's just insane. And then we see right away he gets uncomfortable from the striking of Cody, and you see like, look, yeah, if you just kind of throw some different things at Bo, we haven't really, he's young. We haven't seen much from him yet. And, he's still getting more experience in the cage. So, of course, he gets uncomfortable. Granted, he dominated from the wrestling front, ended up getting the finish, gets the win, in the second round. But we also have to recognize, how can you put him in this position where he's such a huge favorite? Like, well, I don't know why these odd makers are doing this. Granted, he won, yes, in the second round, but it's like, this is MMA. You have to give a little bit of leeway too. Like, come on. I understand fans aren't happy. Like, I wasn't happy that he was on the main card. Like, that was clearly a prelim level fight. It should not have been on the main card, like, obviously. But I don't blame Bo for that. He's obviously going to take those opportunities. I blame more so the matchmakers and Dana for putting him in that position. Like, why is he on the main card of 300? He shouldn't be, right? And I'm not super mad about it or anything. I just think, like, that was clearly just like a prelim level fight. At the end of the day, though, it was a good level up for Bo. And I think he should be getting more of a slower, progression up in the UFC. Don't rush him. Don't push him up right away to, like, mid-rank guys, etc. Like, let's see him kind of slowly build up. And I think that'll also help for fans as well. Like, let's get going. Let's take some time with this, right? And then you kind of build the fan base from there. Then we go to Jiri versus Rakic. And this fight was just bonkers because Rakic looked amazing early on in this fight. On all fronts, on the feet, he was hurting Jiri. He was landing stuff on him. The leg kicks clearly were damaging him. Jiri clearly didn't learn anything from that Pereira fight because he just said, leg kicks? What? I don't care. And it was just like, it was so funny. It was just like the Max Holloway thing. He's like, mentally, Jiri was on a different level. He was somewhere else. He was at a higher playing field when it came to the mental game because the leg kicks weren't hurting him. The volume of strikes Rakic were landing were not bothering him either. He says, I'm going to get this done one way or another. And I noticed when it came to landing strikes to the head, Jiri's strikes had more impact than Rakic's, right? You could see Rakic, move a lot more when he got hit. And that was kind of the story of this fight. Jiri hits him with a big bomb. It really wobbles Rakic and just kind of makes him collapse from there. And a brilliant move that Jiri did was while Rakic was wobbled, he pulled his hip down to take him down while he was wobbled. It was a brilliant move. And then the ground and pound from there. And Jiri got the finish. But this fight to me just showed the mental fortitude of Jiri even more so than ever before. Because if you look how that fight was playing out, it looked like it was going beautifully for Rakic. But all it takes for Jiri is a couple shots, one shot, two shot that really hurts you. And now when you're in danger, he's coming at you fast and hard, and it's less, and then the volume comes and then it's over. Now, in terms of Jiri getting that title shot right away, you honestly could do it, but I'd rather see another fresh matchup first. Maybe give Jiri one more fight. Do Jiri versus Jamahal Hill. That fight was supposed to happen anyways. The two champs were supposed to go at it, right? So I think that could be the fight to make for a title eliminator. All right, then we go to Sterling versus Kattar. And to me, this was the only bad fight of the night, just from an entertainment standpoint. I still think it showed high-level stuff from Sterling, the wrestling, the control, but just not a lot of damage, not a lot of progression in the grappling. A lot of holding and stalling, very slow to get to the next positions. Kattar had the ability to hurt Aljo, but Aljamain's game plan just shut Kattar down completely. Just shut him down. Kattar couldn't get it going at all in this fight, and it was shocking to see how quickly and how seemingly easy Aljo did that to Kattar. It was super impressive, but just from an entertainment standpoint, for the fans especially too, I get it. Like, we had so many crazy fights, and then we get this, and it's like, okay, very slow, and it's just like taking a long time, and it's just like, it's not an action-packed fight. And I think Aljo knew that too, and it was crazy that they didn't give him an interview after. I was like, damn, they're just like, let's just get out of here and move on. But ultimately, the win itself for Aljo, very important and very dominant. Like, that was impressive nonetheless to just dominate Kattar like that. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do next with him in that division and, what we get next. Next, we go to Holm versus Harrison. And, man, I was dead wrong about everything about this fight. I thought Holm was going to be able to pick apart, stay on the feet, and damage Harrison. I also thought Harrison was really going to struggle with that weight cut, and that was going to impact her. And the weight cut was seemingly fine for her. She looked fresh as hell. And I admit, I'm a bozo. I was dead wrong about this fight. Harrison looked incredible and looked like a championship level caliber fighter in the UFC. She honestly did what people thought Ronda Rousey was going to do to Holly Holm. She dominated from start to finish. And the one question even she had, and I had, of course, watching the fight was, why did Holm engage in the clinch? Like, what are you doing? You have to have one game plan and one game plan only, and you just ditch that. Like, that was insane to me. But nonetheless, Kayla Harrison was not only dominant and controlling, she was damaging too. Those elbows, those hellbows were nasty. I love to watch it. It was entertaining, it was quick, and it was dominant enough to even get Nunes attention. If Kayla Harrison gets this belt, Nunes is gonna be super intrigued to come back to the UFC. It's a fight they wanted for a long time, and now it actually might come to fruition eventually. Next up is Yusuff versus Lopes, and Lopes again delivering for the fans and for himself. A huge fight for him on a huge platform. This is UFC 300. All the eyeballs are on you now for new fans, old fans, everybody, and he couldn't have had a better performance. Didn't waste any time, right away got the action started and got the job done, and that is not easy to do. Like, that was insane, and I cannot wait to see him go to the next levels of this division because, man, oh man, if he can continue this run, he's going to be something special, man. He is so fun. The only tough part is that so much stuff happened on this card, so it's like he couldn't get a bonus. Then we go to Turner versus Moicano, and what I thought was going to happen in this fight almost did. Turner lands a bomb on Moicano. He gets shaken up, and Turner, for whatever reason, just looks at the ref as if like, bro, you're supposed to stop this right now. What are you doing? What are you talking about? Moicano wasn't like asleep or like eyes rolled back. Like, he was wobbled and hurt. Don't get me wrong, but not enough to think it's gonna be a walk-off KO. You don't think the ref's just gonna stop that just like that when Moicano is still like at least upright on his butt? Like, what? That mistake costed him the fight. You allowed Moicano to recover. Moicano came back hot, took it to the ground, and then finished you. That was a massive blunder from Turner when you could have had that fight. That fight was in your hands to win, and you let it slip away because you wanted to have a, wild walk-off moment. but a finish would have been good enough. But even though I predicted Turner to win, I don't care. I'm happy Moicano won. Then we go to Andrade versus Rodriguez. And the reason why I picked Andrade to win this, because I just thought that she'd be able to dog it out, make the fight messy, and get the win. And that's exactly what happened. Rodriguez was picking her apart on the feet when she was in distance, but when Andrade made it messy, when she got in the clinch, changed things up, when she kind of threw multiple shots at Rodriguez, inside the distance, that really bothered her. And that's pretty much what won her the fight. She out-dogged her and just kind of like out-toughed Rodriguez to get that W. Then we go to Green versus Miller, and this fight, you knew Green was looking to not just dominate, but give a proper performance and show for the fans, and you can tell he wanted that bonus bad, right? The way he was fighting, dancing, just in general, the way he fights is entertaining, but he really made a point to be like, no, I want to make my mark on this UFC 300 card right away, land bombs on Miller, land volume, constantly put pressure and engage with him. And that's what he did. And it was super fun to watch. Just Bobby Green go off and have a vintage Bobby Green type of win. Super slick. He put himself in danger, got caught a little bit, but for the most part was damaging Miller. He caught him up and was just dancing on him. And then in the end, he does the point in the center and the boys go at it. And you could argue, look, maybe the corner should have threw in the towel. It doesn't happen a lot in the UFC and MMA. But, in that case, Miller, just the way he looked and the way he was, but I get it. They don't want to, give up for him. The ref could have stopped it too, but that was a dominant performance from Bobby Green. I was dead wrong about that, my pick there, but at the end of the day, all credit to Bobby Green. That was phenomenal to watch. And then the call out after was perfect. Call out Paddy the Baddy. It's two guys. You just had a fantastic performance. It's two guys, hot heads, loud mouth. Those are two guys that are going to go right at each other. And I think that could be the fight to make. And I think so. I think Hunter Campbell is actually already talking about it to make that fight. And now that Bobby Green did it on that platform on 300, it's pretty much, to me, it looks like it could be a sealed deal. Paddy the Baddy versus Bobby Green. I think it's a great step up for Paddy the Baddy. It's time to level up. It's time to get up there. Let's do it. Put these two head to head. It'll be a banger. And if Paddy can win it, it'll be a good win for him. If Bobby can win it, he shuts down the Paddy Baddy hype train. I'd be super hyped to see that fight. Then we go to the first fight of the night, Figueiredo versus Garbrandt. And this kind of felt weird to me because I'm like, wait, Cody Garbrandt, Deiveson Figueiredo in the first fight of the night? Like, this just feels weird, but I'm not complaining. Both guys were ready to go, especially Cody Garbrandt. He was so sharp on the feet. He looked phenomenal. I'm like, Cody is picking him apart. I'm like, he's looking phenomenal. And then Figueiredo, with his veteran savvy, he's able to take Cody down and finish him. But honestly, on the feet, Cody was super impressive to me still. And the fact that Figueiredo won the way he did, I did not expect. I thought Figueiredo was going to win by hurting Cody, and that did not happen. All right, and that wraps up the card. Before I get into my overall thoughts, there were some announcements that were made by Dana. First off, June 1st, New Jersey pay-per-view, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. This seemed to make sense just because of the timing of UFC 300. Poirier would be the next guy up, and honestly, it's great timing and a great opportunity for Poirier. He got to take advantage of that because you kind of slipped through there because of the circumstances of the BMF belt and everything, and Charles Oliveira and Tsarukyan being at 300 as well. The timing of it and Islam wanting to fight there and then putting them there, like, that really worked out for Poirier. And I think they kind of did him a favor because he took that challenge with Benoit Saint Denis. Nobody wanted that. I think they were like, you know what, we're going to give you that title shot from that. And I'm not mad at it, but Poirier is not getting this again. So you got to take advantage. Then Strickland versus Costa. I think it's a super fun fight. The back and forth between them is going to be super funny. I can't wait to see this. And then we get at the post-fight press conference, when most people are probably asleep because it's super late or super early, we get Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, June 29th, just like Conor said in that video, but the difference is instead of 185, it's at 170. And the first thing that came to my mind was, if you're going to announce this, why don't you do it during the event? Or do like a special promo video afterwards, or put something out there, like make it special because it is special. It's Conor McGregor finally coming back. And he does it with like a rip note of like, oh, just a reminder, mention the Conor thing. It's like, of course, it doesn't matter either way. Everyone's going to, as soon as you say it's official and Dana says it, like everyone's going to go crazy and we're going to be talking about it. But it just feels like you just had this massive UFC 300 event that felt so special and was amazing. Why couldn't you do something at least similar in terms of effort just, for this Conor announcement? It's huge. Nonetheless, it doesn't really matter because we're getting it. Finally. And to me, the most interesting aspect is 170. Chandler is powerful. And how much is that power going to translate to 170? Like, damn, That to me is going to be fireworks. I cannot wait. And I'm so glad they've just finally announced this and gave it a date so we can just stop talking about it. We've been talking about this for like almost 2 years about opponents and is this going to happen? In the Ultimate Fighter thing, it's like, finally, it's over. We got it. Thank you. Anyways, back to UFC 300. Again, this event, world class, top of the line, gold standard, the new standard for UFC pay-per-views. It's UFC 300. I haven't bought a UFC pay-per-view in so long, and I'm so glad I bought it because I wanted that full experience. I didn't want to be interrupted. I didn't want any possible lag, and I'm like, give me the full pay-per-view experience, and it was so worth it. This was so damn worth it. It was worth the wait. It was worth everything, especially with a card that people thought was going to be bad. They're like, oh, no, that's not that amazing. No Conor. I'm like, this card delivered, and it was so much fun, and the event itself really felt special, and it felt like a moment in time, and I'm so glad I watched it live. Let me know what you guys think about all the fights, about the new news, about everything that went down, about Max friggin' Holloway. Let me know, guys. I will talk to you later. Peace out.